Conspire channel, welcome to today's show. You know, MAGA was right when they said that Donald Trump was playing 3D chess, or as I like to call it, 33D chess. And I want you to know that ultimately, I think what will occur in the future here is that the stock market will probably go sky high, because the goal of everything that's going on right now is what is called the de-dollarization and the removal of the dollar and its value in international trade. Because remember, the dollar is really the most important currency that there is, and the New World Order needs the dollar to be destroyed. So Donald Trump will probably be proven right, which is why he's tweeting out all these arrogant tweets. And there's hysteria on both sides, people in the market, people out of the market. MAGA saying they don't care if they lose all their money, they still support Trump. And the other people saying that he should be impeached immediately, to invoke the 25th Amendment and remove him from office. This is working perfectly just the way they wanted it to. And if they're going to devalue the dollar, and this whole process of de-dollarization is going to continue, I wouldn't be surprised if the stock market doubles in the future, because it won't matter if you have millions of shares in a company like Tesla or Apple or Amazon, and those stocks are sky high. Because if on the other side of that, they're quietly killing off the value of the dollar, and de-dollarization is in full effect with all these countries that are aligned with BRICS, sky high. Because if on the other side of that, they're quietly killing off the value of the dollar, and de-dollarization is in a company like Tesla or Apple or Amazon, and those stocks are sky high. Because if on the other side of that, they're quietly killing off the value of the dollar, and de-dollarization is in full effect with all these countries that are aligned with BRICS, then those stocks are worthless. And they're definitely monitoring how people are reacting right now on social media. And the fact that people are going crazy over their 401ks, and they're going crazy that Trump is sabotaging the market, is something that they notice. And they probably obviously knew that people are only seeing when they click on their E-Trade accounts or their Morgan Stanley accounts, and they're seeing nothing but red. They know if they turn that into nothing but green inside of that little computer interface, that those people will cheer and they'll idolize Donald Trump even more, and they'll never even be aware of what's happening on the flip side with the dollar. So I want to talk about multiple things here so people out there understand. First of all, Donald Trump shared this video about how he's purposely crashing the stock market. And this, of course, is the truth in plain sight, right? Just he won't admit to it actually being the sabotage of the dollar. He's admitting to the fact, in a way, that he's crashing it by design. So he put this tweet out on his Truth Social account where he shared this video I'm about to play for you. And this video is out there by design, because all the MAGA people in the, under the spell of the left-right paradigm, they all see this and they're all staying positive. They're saying Trump's deliberately doing it. He's outsmarting them. He's playing 3D chess, right? And of course, all the Democrats are seeing it and they're going crazy. They're saying, see, he is purposely crashing the stock market. He should be impeached. And of course, Trump is just giving a wink by sharing this video, because yes, he's purposely crashing the stock market because it's only going to rise again, and he's going to be praised even more than ever, which is why he's making some of these ridiculous tweets out there about hanging tough and how America's going to prosper. And again, people will prosper while the dollar goes down. That prosperity will be worth nothing. But this is sabotage. This is Trump. And this is the propaganda that they're using, because Trump shared this with all of his MAGA as a way to tell all of the MAGA people out there, don't worry, everything's going to be fine. Yeah, and all this looks fine and dandy until you suddenly realize that no other countries are trading in the U.S. dollar anymore, because you're giving them independence. And instead of using the dollar, they're now trading in other currencies, which is really part of the purpose of all of these tariffs. But this is the video that Trump shared with his MAGA supporters.
Trump is crashing the stock market by 20% this month, but he's doing it on purpose. And this is why Warren Buffett just said Trump is making the best economic moves he's seen in over 50 years. Now, here's the secret game he's playing, and it could make you rich. So why is he doing this? to push cash into treasuries, which forces the Fed to slash interest rates in May. And those lower rates give the Fed the ability to refinance trillions of debt very inexpensively. It also weakens the dollar and drops mortgage rates.
Works for the
Now, it's a
bagels that
wild
print the
chess
money.
move, but it's
Genius.
working. Now, you're probably wondering,
Good try,
what about
buddy.
tariffs? Well, I'll tell you, it's a genius play. It actually forces companies to build here to dodge them. It also forces farmers
the
to
New
sell
York
more
type
of their products
accent.
here in the U.S. to bring grocery prices way
sound
down.
exactly like
We've already
someone I
seen
know.
this with eggs. Now, remember, 94% of all stocks are owned only by 8% of Americans. So Trump, he's taking from the rich short term and handing it to the middle class through lower prices.
Nope.
So all the MAGA supporters are saying, see,
Not
Trump
even
knows
close.
he's playing chess with these people, right? They're
Not
all
even
under the
close.
psychosis. He's playing chess with them.
laughable.
Democrats don't get it. And then when the stock market goes up, all the conservatives are going to care about is pointing a finger at the Democrats and saying, look, you all panicked like losers. You all sold your shares. Now it's worth all this, right? But meanwhile, on the other side, we'll begin seeing what we're seeing right now, today.
How long is that gonna
We'll begin
last?
seeing all of these countries begin pushing themselves away from the dollar and separating themselves from the dollar, which hurts the value of the dollar, which is the purpose of all of this. It doesn't matter if the economy is sky high. It doesn't matter if the stock market doubles by the end of the year. If the dollar's worth nothing, those shares and those stocks aren't worth anything. So let's start with this. Donald Trump is tweeting out, of course, this just plays into the psychosis because these people are on social media. They feel like they're getting direct messages from these celebrities and these politicians, right? So Trump tweets out just to, gaslight, get people more lit up over all this stuff. United States has a chance to do something that should have been done decades ago. Don't be weak. Don't be stupid. Don't be a panicking.
Wow.
A new party based on weak and stupid people. Be strong, courageous, and patient, and
So
greatness will
basic.
be the result. Oil prices are down. Interest rates are down. The slow-moving Fed should cut rates, like you heard in that video. Food prices are down. Not true. There is no inflation. Definitely not true. And the long-time abused USA is bringing in billions of dollars a week from the abusing countries on tariffs that are already in place. This is despite the fact that the biggest abuser of them all, China, whose markets are crashing, just raised its tariffs by 34% on top of its long-term,
Going 33%?
ridiculously high tariffs, plus not acknowledging my warning for abusing countries not to retaliate. They've made enough for decades taking advantage of the good old USA. Our past leaders are to blame for allowing this and so much else to happen to our country. Make America
You were the press leader,
great
genius.
again. So
You
if
were a
haven't noticed,
leader.
people are going ballistic over
5
all
years
of this
ago.
on both sides of the aisle.
Were you
MAGA,
president
such a spell that they're defending what Trump's doing. They believe everything you saw in that video clip. All it takes is for them to make up numbers, right? They make up the numbers on the tariffs. They make up the numbers on how many people are invested in the stock market. Oh, yes, it's the billionaires who are losing money in the stock markets. When they know that it's the majority of the middle class who are losing money in the stock market, and that gets people even angrier. MAGA somehow believes that it's only the rich, that he's really going after the elites. The elites are mad at him. Bezos, Zuckerberg, they're angry at Trump. He's going after the deep state. He's going after the swamp, right? This is about going after the middle class. And again, it's about that one word that I said earlier. Get ready and get used to hearing this word. De-dollarization, okay? So there's been articles out there. They've been talking about, even right in front of your faces, using terms like Trump's New World Order tests the dollar. But most people out there just continue to hear that and not understand what it means. They just hear, the value of the dollar is down. I don't get it. My stocks are up, right? And that's really all they see is when they log in to whatever accounts they
see the
use to
world
manage
around
their
them.
stocks. They see either red or they see green. If they see green, they're happy at the end of the day. If they see red, they're very, very angry and pretty much go unhinged. So de-dollarization involves the reducing of the U.S. dollar's dominance in global markets by substituting it as the primary currency for financial transactions, which means other countries stop using the dollar. And that's the whole purpose of BRICS, which I've been covering for a couple of years now. But for anybody out there that doesn't understand what I'm talking about, if the stock market doubles right by the end of the year, and say you put all your money in it now and it doubled by the end of the year, if the dollar's worth nothing, it doesn't matter. Okay, so here's a perfect example, right? Has anyone ever heard of the Vietnamese dong? And no, I'm not talking about that dong. That's their currency. It's called the Vietnamese dong, okay? I don't know who's responsible for naming it that, but nonetheless, this is one of the weaker currencies in the world, okay? $1 US, $1 is worth 799.99 Vietnamese dongs. Okay? So if somebody had a bag, okay, of 25,800, let's just say, Vietnamese dong, and they were standing in front of you and they're like, hey, I'll give this to you for $1, you probably wouldn't even get it. And you'd be like, yeah, I mean, that's a lot of currency there. You wouldn't say, boy, how much one is this going to buy me in Vietnamese? And your head would just explode because it sounds like a lot, right? It sounds like a lot of money, but it's worthless. It's 26,000 worthless Vietnamese dongs, which is the equivalent of $1. So in other words, if the stock market, if your E-Trade account shows that you have $50 million in it, okay, when you go in it tomorrow and you had $5,000 and you think you're suddenly a millionaire, and then you realize that, well, $50 million is now the equivalent of one Vietnamese dong, what does it matter? It doesn't matter. So quietly, while everybody's fighting over all of this stuff, let's just keep in mind what happened during the Great Recession back in 2007, 2008, right? The stock market experienced a significant downturn. The dollar actually appreciated due to a flight to safety and lower expected inflation. And they called it a phenomenon at the time that ran counter to standard macroeconomic models. Well, I believe what we could be seeing here is the exact opposite thing, where we see the stock market goes sky high and people think that they're millionaires while the dollar goes completely in the toilet. That's what I expect. Now, you would think that MAGA might get really upset about that. But let's keep in mind as well about crypto and MAGA.
Unhinged. They don't
because
understand
the
anything.
dollar, when it gets weaker, crypto gets higher. And who's the supporter of cryptocurrency? It's pretty much
CIA?
overall a MAGA obsession, right? So those will be the people who probably would prosper if they're going to start tanking the dollar and even blowing up the stock market and blowing up crypto. The people in the stock market wouldn't realize that their stocks and their shares are worth nothing in the long run if the dollar's worth nothing. And the people in crypto will feel like millionaires, and it'll be all the MAGA backers, right? While the rest of the crowd is left out in the dust. But what we have to really focus on is what this means for BRICS. Because BRICS countries, as of right now, as of this tariff war beginning, which is, again, it's them playing with you. These countries are all working together. If you read Agenda 2030, all this stuff that they talk about with equality and everything else, it ties into the destruction of the dollar. So all these countries had to come up with some type of plan in order to make the dollar worthless. And of course, Trump's playing the role of the character that he's playing, of course, perfectly picked. You know, you could have picked a better actor to make America go broke, right? How many bankruptcies have we all heard over and over and over again about Donald Trump? Filed bankruptcy 6 times, somehow went into bankruptcy and put a casino out of business, right? It's all perfectly planted with narratives, okay? For people out there to believe this when it happens and then to blame one another for it. Democrats can blame MAGA, MAGA can blame Democrats. But in the meantime, BRICS countries are preparing to trade in local currencies instead of the US dollar to compete with the tariffs. And that's a big part of all of this. Countries abandoning the dependency on the dollar, being angry that Donald Trump did this to their country, then refusing to use the dollar. And even if the tariffs come down, even if the stock market goes up and they say, hey, look, there's still big tariffs on India. There's still big tariffs on Vietnam. There's still big tariffs on China. Okay, well, what'll happen in the meantime is even if the stock market goes up, those countries will abandon the US dollar and the US dollar will go down. And that, again, is the whole purpose of this, de-dollarization. And you're not going to hear MAGA go too crazy about it. Why? Because while most of MAGA says cash is king and they kind of, we're all about the US dollar, they're the ones who have been brainwashed into thinking that cryptocurrency is free from control, that it's free from the Federal Reserve. And a lot of them are not only invested in it, they're trading in cryptocurrency. So they couldn't care less if the value of the dollar gets killed off, which is really stupid in the long run. But of course, a lot of these people don't really understand what's happening in the first place. So BRICS recently, before the tariff war even began, this has been going on for years. I talked about it last year, right? BRICS got together, they met. This is countries like Russia and China and India, and they're talking about ways to create a new currency to compete with the US dollar. And of course, Trump on the outside pretends like he's opposed to this, but obviously obviously he's not, because all the things that he's doing would lead other countries to naturally create a currency in opposition of the US dollar, right? Like giving them 50% tariffs and all this other stuff, pretending like we're going to charge you this, we're going after you, we're going to punish you. So the countries go, well, we don't want to operate with your currency anymore. We don't need you, right? And then Trump could just blame it on the other countries and say, well, the dollar's going down because these other countries are, they're working with each other, but we're flourishing here in America, right? And then we could just slowly transition over to a new currency in America. Well, the dollar's dead and the stock market's high. They'll just say, well, we won't even worry about the dollar. Let's maybe transition here into a cryptocurrency. And when you take your value out of the stock market, it'll have a new value. It won't be as low as it was in the value of the dollar because the dollar doesn't exist anymore because we killed off the dollar by design, but you weren't paying attention to it because you were just watching your stocks go up and down and arguing with your neighbor over whether men should play women's sports, because that's how genius this has actually been. And I don't even say the word genius lightly. I mean, if you think about the aspects of this entire mental war that they've waged on people with politics and how invested people are, I mean, it's pretty genius in a sense. I mean, these people, doesn't matter what you see out there, what the story is, they're loyal to the party. There seems to be nothing that can be done that would make a Democrat and a Republican unite to say, hey, doesn't matter if the guy in power is a Republican or a Democrat.
Children.
He's corrupt. We need to get him out. They can do all the stuff that they've done with Biden. They can do all the stuff that they've done with Trump. And you see that they align with them. They can make everybody go broke. They'll still align with their party. There's nothing that can be done at this point. Like I said, they could show him on Jeffrey's plane 100 times. They could even show you raw footage of him and Jeffrey that nobody wants to see from the dark web, and they wouldn't care. They'd say it was photoshopped. They'd say that it was a deep fake. They would not believe it because that's a part of the psychosis that we're in. So the potential BRICS currency, for anyone that doesn't know, would allow these nations who are members of BRICS to assert their economic independence while competing with the existing international financial system. The current system is dominated by the US dollar, which accounts for about 90% of all currency trading. Until recently, nearly 100% of all trading was conducted in US dollars. However, in 2023, 1/5 of oil trades were reportedly made using non-US dollar currencies. Central to this ongoing situation in the US trade war with China, as well as US sanctions on China and Russia, the BRICS nation may establish a new reserve currency. It would likely significantly impact the US dollar, potentially leading to a decline in demand, or what is known as de-dollarization. In turn, this would have implications for the United States and global economies. Member nations of BRICS are quoted as saying, quote, "We are not refusing, not fighting the dollar, but if they don't let us work with it, what can we do? We then have to look for other alternatives, which is what's happening right now." End quote. Do you hear that sound, right? So look at the way that MAGA nationalists, how they act, right? They want everything to be done in America. They're like, we don't want anything to do with other countries anymore, right? Talked about this in previous videos with small businesses that outsource from other countries. These people seem perfectly fine with them going out of business. They go, oh, well, you're getting your shoes made from Brazil. You should get them made here in America, right? Well, the guy can't afford to get the labor done here in America because the labor is more expensive, so he needs to outsource. So all the MAGA people are like, well, then go out of business because you're not America first, right? So when these countries say, well, we can't use the dollar anymore, you're not letting us. These MAGA people say, good, that's great. They don't realize the effects that it has on the dollar. They just think that this is some alpha male MAGA thing that's going to be wonderful for Mystery Babylon here in America. They think that's going to be great when all these countries go, oh, yeah, we don't need the dollar. Then suddenly they realize that their dollar isn't even worth, that 50,000 US dollars isn't even worth one Vietnamese dong, right? Because that's what the plan is. So the BRICS nations have a slew of reasons to wanting to set up a new currency, including recent global financial challenges and aggressive U.S. foreign policies. They want to better serve their own economic interests while reducing global dependence on the U.S. dollar and the euro. In recent years, the U.S. has placed numerous sanctions on Russia and Iran. The two countries are working together to bring about a BRICS currency that would negate the economic impacts of such restrictions, according to Iranian ambassador to Russia, Kazim Jalal, speaking at a press conference during the Russia Islamic World Kazan Forum in May 2024. I thought it said Kazarian.
Kazarian. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
The advantages of BRICS having their own currency. A new currency can have several benefits for the BRICS countries, including more efficient cross-border transactions and increased financial inclusion. Right? That word inclusion again. How many times do we hear about equality and inclusion? This has to do with the dollar being destroyed. Because remember, America is looked at as the big spoiled brat. Right? They need to bring America down. And that's part of this whole inclusion nonsense that they have out there. It's part of the people are thinking that inclusion has to do with the genders in the school. All that stuff that they talk about when they meet about inclusion is really about killing off the dollar and making so that all countries have equal wealth. And some people might say it's a great thing, but then when you realize what the equal wealth is, and it's like living like a third world prisoner here in America, I mean, most people would catch fire from even thinking about that thought. But by leveraging blockchain technology, digital currencies, and smart contracts, the currency could revolutionize the global financial system. Thanks to seamless cross-border payments, it could also promote trade and economic integration among the BRICS nations and beyond. Think about that for a second. Leveraging blockchain and digital currency. So if America gets ditched here and they start doing that, then the thing that they're going to start saying is that America has to match what they're doing with BRICS and do something counter to what BRICS is doing. And then, digital currency, right? Because, everybody's doing digital international transactions. Now America's still trying to do cash, right? Well, America's got to catch up or America's going to be completely broke. Oh, we better come in with a digital currency now that the dollar's dead. How about the digital dollar? Yay, right? See how it works? So a new BRICS currency would also strengthen economic integration with the BRICS countries, reduce the influence of the U.S. on the global stage, weaken the standing of the U.S. dollar as a global reserve currency. These are all, this is exactly what's happening. Encourage other countries to form alliances to develop regional currencies, mitigate risks associated with global volatility due to unilateral measures and the diminution of dollar dependence. And think about that too. Think about that old quote, right? An enemy of my enemy is my friend. Think about all these countries, right? Trump holding that board up, just like the picture of Trump holding his fist up, how perfectly staged that was, and what that did for the psychosis of MAGA. Right? To just build nothing but trust and love and admiration for him. And then that divine intervention stuff, they're under a complete spell. Think about him holding up that tariff board, how ridiculous that was, right? And everybody looking at it, he just had page after page after page with every single country on it getting tariff for the most part, right? There might have been a couple exceptions, but pretty much every country on there getting tariff. Well, what do you think the illusion is of the other country? The other countries are looking at it going, well, I mean, an enemy, the enemy of my enemy, I guess, is my friend. So why don't we do something to work together to go after them because they decided to poke us and poke a bear? I mean, it's perfect. It's being played out perfectly. But most people are never even going to see it happening because even, like I said, I believe the stock market will go back up. But the dollar will go down, so it doesn't make a difference. And people will still come over, they'll comment when the stock market goes up probably and say, yeah, you said that Trump was a traitor. Look, the stock market's up. It's never been higher. America's great again. Because that's all they think. They just repeat their caricatures. They repeat what they hear from the talking heads. Like I said, you could have $50 million in your E-Trade account. Guess what? If they do this and BRICS goes forward and America continues with the tariffs, even if the stock market goes up, if these other countries abandon the dollar and the dollar goes down and these other countries adopt a digital currency, well, the $50 million that you have in your account won't even be worth one Vietnamese dong. Okay? So that's my opinion on where it's probably going. I could obviously be wrong. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know everything. I try to evaluate these things the way that I see them, right? You understand that the dollar has to be killed. This is part of the blueprint of the New World Order. Well, how do you kill the dollar? Most people just go, I don't know. Well, the dollar's dying because the economy's going. Okay, right. But if the economy goes up and the dollar goes down, are any of these people going to notice? I don't know. It seems that they only notice whatever is told to them by the alt-right media, just like the Democrats only know whatever's told to them by the liberal media. And that's why I constantly have people on my channel, and they literally are on my channel calling me a Democrat. People are finding my videos about Trump, and they're like, oh, spoken like a true lib, spoken like a true Democrat. They can't even hear what we're saying or I'm saying, right? They can't even hear it. Like, hey, we're not a part of the left-right paradigm. What? I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. What are you, Tea Party? No, it isn't real, okay? There's a monarchy that's in place all around the earth right now. These people are actors making you think that you're empowered because they fear what would actually occur, which would occur. There would be a massive revolution against this, right? So the people feel empowered, then they blame their neighbor. It's perfect. They've really created the perfect, what's the word? I mean, it's like a mirage. I mean, we're living in a simulated reality, right? Like we always talk about. So most people come over, they can't even grasp the notion of not being in the left, right. But I think the reason, other than de-dollarization, which has to happen, I think one of the big things that Trump will be proven right is because that's really part of the theme here. They've built him up as this massive character. And the more that he does these things, these people are going to obsess. He'll do no wrong. It's like they're building this absolute cult following army that is MAGA, and he could do no wrong in their eyes, and just watch if he's proven right again. And he's like, I told all of you to stay patient, now the stock market. And then you try to tell them about the value of the dollar, they won't even listen to it. They'll just be like, look at my 401k now, pal. Look at my 401k now, pal. Oh yeah, it's worth one Vietnamese dong. Congratulations, right? The de-dollarization is in full effect, ladies and gentlemen. Keep an eye on what happens with BRICS and these other countries, because this isn't going away. They're not going to go tomorrow, every country and America, they're all getting along again. Everything's great. This is being purposely done by all of the leaders. They're playing a role, making you believe in this show that's going on. Everybody's fighting over what the character is doing, like watching a soap opera. Oh, my favorite wrestler's doing this, and your favorite wrestler's doing that. They argue with one another. It's called sabotage. That's what it's caused. So the stock market might go up, but the tariffs aren't going to go away because these other countries are going to jump off the dollar. And the dollar is going to be killed in the long run. And no one's going to probably even notice it because Trump will just tell you the dollar's fine. Probably. It's all he needs to do. Or he'll just start talking more about crypto, and all the crypto nuts will just be loving it more and dancing in the aisles because he's talking about Bitcoin and those types of things, right? It's incredible. I mean, we're living in pretty much, I feel like we're living inside of an asylum at this point, where they've left all the doors open for all these people who are insane, and they're just running amok. They're running around, they're unhinged, they have no idea what's really happening. They see these things, and whatever, they just run with it. Impeach him today, impeach him tomorrow, right? How many times have we heard this narrative? Everyone's going for an impeachment on Trump, right? The same thing with Biden. Nothing ever happens because nothing's supposed to happen. This is called sabotage 101. You're watching it play out now. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're